the faint scent of the gas making their heads light. "We're all losing our minds, aren't we?" Molly whispered, leaning against a crate of bandages. "Maybe the world was already crazy," Quinton replied. He moved closer, the distance between them evaporating. For a moment, the war didn't exist. There was no captain, no admiral, no PT-73. There was only the sound of her breathing and the warmth of her skin. He kissed her then, a desperate, hungry kiss that tasted of salt and longing. It was a promise made in a house of cards, a fragile thing that the morning light would surely break. "Stay with me," he murmured against her lips. "Until the war ends," she replied. "Or until the world wakes up." Chapter 5. The Alligator's Ledger. The climax of the drama didn't come from a Japanese bomb, but from something far more mundane: money. The base payroll, $62,000, had arrived in New Caledonia. Captain Binghamton, in his infinite spite, had ordered the 73 crew to pick it up, hoping they would succumb to temptation. "It's a trap, Skip," Gruber warned. "If a single dollar goes missing, we're all in the brig." And then came Sydney. Sydney was a 6-foot alligator with a penchant for peanut butter and a strange attraction to Ensign Parker. During a stopover on a remote island, Sydney had wandered into the camp and, in a fit of reptilian curiosity, had made off with the captain's wallet, which happened to contain the marked bills for the payroll trap. "The alligator ate the payroll!" Parker screamed, running toward the boat with Sydney hot on his heels. What followed was a high-stakes chase through the swamps and lagoons. Binghamton had arrived in New Caledonia to catch them red-handed, only to find McHale and his men wrestling a disgruntled alligator in the middle of a French bistro. "Where is the money, McHale?" "The alligator has it, sir," Quinton said, pointing to Sydney, who was currently sunning himself on the bistro's patio with a leather wallet protruding from his jaws. The court-martial that followed was the stuff of legend. McHale, acting as Parker's defense, brought Sydney into the courtroom. The chaos that ensued, the alligator snapping at the judge's robes, the discovery of the stolen champagne bottles inside a piggy bank Binghamton had hidden, revealed the captain's own petty corruptions. In the end, the money was recovered, but the damage to Binghamton's reputation was permanent. He was humiliated, not by an enemy fleet, but by a reptile and a group of sailors who refused to be broken. Epilogue: The horizon calls. The sun was setting over Taratupa, casting long, golden shadows across the sand. The PT-73 was fueled and ready for her next patrol. The laughter of the crew echoed from the bar, but Quinton McHale stood on the beach, looking out at the horizon. Molly joined him, slipping her hand into his. "The captain is being transferred to a desk job in Pearl Harbor," she said. "He leaves tomorrow. He'll find a way to be miserable there, too," Quinton said with a small smile. "And us?" she asked. Quinton looked at the stars, beginning to poke through the twilight. The war was far from over. There would be more inspections, more battles, more moments where life hung by a thread. But as he looked at the woman beside him, he knew that Taratupa had given him something the Navy never could. "We keep going," he said, pulling her close. "We fight the war, we protect our own, and we wait for the day when the only thing we have to worry about is the scent of hibiscus in the air." The sapphire beast of the Pacific continued to roar, but for one night, the ghosts were silent. Love, it seemed, was the only thing the sea couldn't swallow. Taratupa Dreams, a novel of the South Pacific. Chapter 1. The Scent of Salt and Panic. The sun over Taratupa did not merely shine. It pulsated. It was a heavy, wet heat that clung to the skin like a damp wool blanket, smelling of salt spray, diesel fumes, and the sweet, rotting scent of overripe jungle fruit. For Captain Wallace B. Binghamton, the heat was a physical manifestation of his own rising blood pressure. He stood in his office, his shirt already stained with sweat, staring at a requisition form that felt like a personal insult. "Wow," he whispered, the word escaping his lips in a rhythmic, stunned cadence. "Wow, wow, 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 wow." Beside him, Lieutenant Elroy Carpenter stood at rigid attention. "Sir?" "Garter belts. Carpenter, Binghamton snapped, waving the paper. The nurses are demanding garter belts. We are in the middle of a global conflict. The Japanese are potentially around every atoll, and I am the supply officer for ladies' undergarments. They say the humidity ruins the elastic, sir, Carpenter offered helpfully. It's a matter of morale. Morale? Binghamton roared. If they need them, then snap to it. Shake a leg. Oh, you know what I mean. Everything is on my shoulders, Carpenter. Everything. The phone on his desk jangled like a nervous tooth. Binghamton snatched it up. He expected a routine report. He received a death sentence. Admiral Iron Pants Rafferty was arriving for a sneak inspection. Rafferty was a man carved out of granite and fueled by the tears of junior officers. His nickname was earned through a legendary lack of humor and a fetish for naval discipline. This place is a mess, Binghamton moaned, clutching his stomach. The sinks in the Petty Officers Club are backing up. The nurses are ungartered. And McHale, God. Machal is breathing the same air as I am. Commander Quinton McHale was the thorn in Binghamton's side. A rugged, charismatic saltwater skipper who treated the Navy's regulations as mere suggestions. To Binghamton, McHale and his crew of cutthroats on the PT-73 were a disaster waiting to happen. To the men, Macale was the only thing that made the war bearable. Sir, your stomach, Carpenter warned, reaching for a bottle of pills. My stomach acid could start a car, Elroy. I don't care about the pills. If I'm sick, wait. A slow, predatory smile spread across Binghamton's face. If I were truly ill-incapacitated, I would have to appoint an acting base commander, someone to stand in the line of fire when Rafferty arrives. Sir, you wouldn't mean... McHale, Binghamton whispered, his eyes gleaming. I'll appoint McHale. He'll run wild, destroy himself in front of the Admiral, and I'll be tucked away in a hospital bed, innocent of the carnage. Chapter 2. The Acting Commander. The plan was set into motion with the drama of a Shakespearean tragedy. Binghamton collapsed into the arms of a startled Carpenter, feigning a breakdown that would have made a silent film star proud. Within the hour, he was ensconced in the base infirmary, tucked under white sheets, hiding a smile every time a nurse walked by. McHale was summoned. He arrived with his executive officer, Ensign Charles Parker, a man whose nervousness was a constant gale force wind. Oh, McHale, Binghamton groaned, his voice a thready whisper. I'm in bad shape. The tests. No answers yet. McHale leaned over the bed, his face a mask of concern that didn't quite reach his eyes. He knew Binghamton. He knew the captain would sell his own grandmother for a quiet inspection. Take it easy, Captain. We're concerned. Really. I have to appoint an acting base commander, Binghamton said, watching McHale's reaction. I thought of Carpenter, but... Yes, sir, Carpenter, agreed reflexively, then blinked. Wait, sir, I'm appointing you, McHale, Binghamton declared. And Parker here. He'll be your executive officer. Go to my office. Take command. That's an order. As McHale and Parker left the infirmary, the weight of the island seemed to shift. For the first time, the pirates were the law. In the captain's office, the chaos was immediate. The phone lines hummed with demands. Sinks were overflowing. The garter belt crisis had reached a fever pitch. And the Seabees were accidentally building an air raid shelter in the middle of a rifle range. Skip, we're being buried alive, Parker cried, clutching a stack of files. But McHale wasn't looking at the files. He was looking out the window at the PT-73 docked in the lagoon. He saw his men Gruber, Willie, Christie, Tinker, and he saw a way to bring a little light to the dark shadow of the war. Parker, tell the boys full speed ahead, McHale said, a reckless spark in his eyes. If we're in charge, we're going to do it our way. Chapter 3. The Hula and the Storm. The McHale way involved a celebration. If the men were to face the end of the world under Iron Pants Rafferty, they would do it with music in their ears. By the time Admiral Rafferty's plane touched down, Taratupa had been transformed. The base, usually a drab collection of olive drab tents and corrugated metal, was alive. Macale had authorized a shindig, native girls in hula,